Good evening, captive audience. Don Anderson here, along with winning bigly. Oh, that would be Sunny on Wonderful Wednesday. Welcome everybody, and Sunny, what say you?
It is a wonderful Wednesday, and we are winning bigly. And if you just look at the nominees for the different cabinet picks, I'm going, yeah, I'm not tired of winning. I think we are winning bigly, but I have to tell you, with this bomb cyclone weather thing that's coming through, we just had quite the windstorm last night and lost power. I was glad to wake up to have power. Not everybody in our community did.
Mhm.
And drove around and see a building, like a big commercial building. The whole roof is peeled off. We had some, and another place, a trampoline must have come off the hill and ended up in the front lawn of some apartments, and a lot of wind damage around.
Did FEMA come help you out?
No, 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 I don't think there's enough to get FEMA. It's not even going to be declared a disaster over here.
Well, if you
And
take that
I'm
sign down.
thankful for that.
Yes, exactly. Well, I'd heard it was pretty bad in certain. I didn't know where in the state it was. We had some here, but it wasn't anything to really write mom home about or anything. But I'm glad to hear that at least your roof survived. So
It did. It did. But I saw some other roofs, and even my neighbor came over this morning and said, "Hey, you know a roofer?" I said, "In fact, I do, a real good one." And they were there at their place, patching up a bit. And yeah. So ended up I had to call the same roofer for a property that we own, because I went and drove around after, and I go,
right,
"Well, hey, I recommended my neighbor to you, but now I need you."
mhm, right,
So
right. There you go. Well, it's good for the
yeah,
roofing business anyway.
yeah, life's all good, but the weather, there is weather out there.
Yeah. Well, I thought I would start us off with this comment I read from Riley Gaines. She's the swimmer that the left has chosen to target and attack because I thought it was such a great comment. So I'm just going to read her quote to you. When your political party or ideology calls for you to shave your head, block your friends on the social media, and calls for you to cut off your family members, you are no longer dealing with a political party. You are dealing with a cult. And that is like one of the most succinct comments I heard about this whole thing so far. And then the other comment I saw was from Anne Rand, the famous conservative icon, if you will, who made this quote: "If a businessman makes a mistake, he suffers the consequences. If a bureaucrat makes a mistake, you suffer the consequences." Never were two things ever more true. So I thought they were great ways to kick off our program. And I thought I'd start with a discussion around, I call it the destruction of the rhinos. And I think this begins with Trump making a successful defense of his cabinet. I can't speak to you how important, or can't overstate how important it is that we win these cabinet positions. We know what happened the first time around. We got a bunch of rhinos in there who were soft and didn't want to push. In fact, they were just as much backstabbing him in the back as Democrats. And in fact, they were even worse, at least the Democrats. That's the enemy you see. The enemy you don't see are these rhinos. And so getting these cabinet selections through are going to be absolutely huge. And the bigger the fight, the more they scream, I think the better. Sonny, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, because they are screaming, it shows that it's right on target of who he wants to appoint. And it's because of, I believe we can't have our government be status quo, what we've been having. And it's so bloated. I was reading a story before coming on tonight, that in our government, many employees in different agencies only need to come into the office once a month.
I saw that story. Only 16% of the time are they coming into the office. That's like insane.
Well, it is insane, and yet we're paying for these offices. And it had to do with reading about Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk and their department that's going to reform our government, and they want to cut a lot of costs and conduct a sweeping rollback of federal regulations. And so it was in that story. And it's like, let's I think there can be a lot of thinning, make our government more, well, one, it's not just let's just fire a bunch of people. No, let's remove a lot of regulation. And as this article that's in the Epic Times, um, they're saying that by reducing the regulations, you now need less people that are watching over all of that. And there was two things that they are focusing on, and that's two Supreme Court decisions since 2021, West Virginia versus the EPA and Loper Bright versus Raimondo. And because that is the one was the former ruling determined the federal agencies cannot impose regulations that encroach on major economic or policy questions without congressional authorization. And the Chevron, the latter one, overturned the Chevron doctrine that allowed the courts to previously defer to federal agencies' interpretation of law. And now they can't do that. It is about, Congress writes the law, and you can't just say, well, this is what the interpretation is of us employees, the unelected bureaucrats. And so I believe there's going to be a lot that are going to be cut. And Musk and Ramaswamy said that the efficiency department will consult with legal experts within the government agencies to apply those two court rulings to certain regulations that those same agencies enact. And so that they really believe that by reducing the number of regulations, it's going to reduce the number of government bureaucrats. And I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, I 100% agree. And I do think, though, that we really need to take a sharp look at what are these agencies accomplishing? It's just like when, was it Musk went into Twitter and asked, I don't know what the percentage was of the workforce. It was a huge percentage, though. And the effectiveness or the end product didn't change one bit. You think about a department like Department of Education. That was started in, I think, 76 by the Carter administration, and not by any metric in terms of education in the United States has anything improved since the Department of Education was put into place. In fact, you could argue that it actually caused things to get worse because all they've done since 1976 in terms of student performance is go the opposite direction. So you take a look at that impact, and you have entire bureaucracies that have nothing to show for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just get rid of them. Um,
Yeah.
and I know when I had a commission as an Air Force officer, the bottom of that commission was essentially signed by the president, served at the pleasure of the president, right? Which means that if you wanted to get rid of us, they got rid of us, and I think that's what needs to happen here. And I love the idea, by the way. I may have talked about this the last time around. One of the ideas floated by the new Trump administration, is going to be to move those agencies out of D.C., which I think is absolutely brilliant. So the hiring of the lower level folks
Yeah.
comes from the center of the United States. So when you're hiring the regular person who comes from Kansas, Nebraska, North, South Dakota, Iowa, you're hiring people from places with values that mimic the rest of the population. You're a lot less likely to have these crazy things happening, like FEMA refusing to help people who have a sign in front of their house that indicates that they might be favoring Trump. Those kinds of things just won't happen when the bureaucracy is hiring moral people. When they all come from these leftist states where they're immoral and crazy, that's
Yeah.
what you're going to get all the time. And those are the unelected ones. Remember, those people are there no matter who's in office.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to respond to Kathy Peterson. She says, please talk about the DEQ meetings tomorrow about the climate scam that will increase our gas prices. So I don't have anything about that. Sorry. There's lots of other things I've been paying attention to, and I'm going to guess maybe Kevin had talked about that. But I'm going to guess, Google it up, people. I'm
Yeah.
going to call attention to it, to Google it up about DEQ meetings tomorrow here in Oregon that are basically going to screw us over, because that's what they do here in Oregon.
Yeah, and this goes to the point, they never stop. We won a battle, we didn't win the war, and we have to stay on a war footing. I thought one of the best things pieces of news I saw also was you take a look at these rhinos that are in congressional seats and senatorial seats all across the country, who are going to backstab and slow roll these appointments. I thought I saw where I think it was Musk basically said he's promised to fund a primary challenge to any Republican congressman or senator who disrupts cabinet appointments.
Hmm.
That is the kind of thing we have to do. That's the way we have to behave. You do that sort of thing, 2 years from
Hmm.
now, you're done. And that's, you got to play hardball.
Yeah.
Being nice does not work. If we don't know that by now, we're never going to know it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm trying to see if I can find that story. Um, DEQ's plan to raise the cost of driving should be canceled. There's an editorial here. Um, Let me see very quickly what it says. Yeah, tomorrow it's
Mhm.
scheduled. The Oregon DEQ is scheduled to adopt a carbon rationing scheme known as the Climate Protection Program, and it's kind of what we're talking about. This is legislation should be doing this, not an unelected agency here in the state of Oregon.
Mhm.
So the regulation will set a statewide cap on the emissions of human-caused carbon, and and then steadily reduce the cap over time. By 2040, most fossil fuels will be outlawed. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
And so, if you don't like it, get a hold of your dang legislators, because they're the ones that can rein this in. And the legislators might go, "Oh gosh, that's an agency doing that."
Yeah. It's
Yeah, because they don't, grab it by the horns, or something else. So that, you know,
these are the kinds of things, unfortunately, citizens of blue states don't respond until they hit over the head with a baseball bat.
yeah.
And hopefully they respond before that bat comes. But when you're starting to pay 10, 15, $20 a gallon, it's not going to feel very good. And that's precisely what the radical left wants to do to all of us.
So it is from Kate Brown. I'm pasting the article here, and it's just another. And frankly, our governor now could say, we're just going to put this on hold, but they're not going to. The Climate Protection Program was ordered by Governor Kate Brown, who's not in office, and our current governor could say, we're just going to pause this. And I'll tell you, and frankly, that's what they should do. And if the legislators don't do anything, um, then elect new ones. But I will tell you that the Republicans are not in the majority in Oregon. We're kind of screwed that way. And in fact, I think we're going to be in a super minority in one. I don't remember if it's the Senate. I think in the Senate, could be the House, and it's not looking good. I hate to be that doom and gloom, but it's the facts of life. And this is where elections have consequences, and many of them, um, it's not pretty, especially in the state of Oregon. Now, going about energy, I got a story here. If I can just find it really quick, it kind of goes a little bit along with this, because you talk about energy, right? So here you have liberal Texas city of Austin, Texas, parks its 46 new e-buses due to inadequate charging infrastructure. And I bring this up. The city spent $255 million to acquire 197 electric buses because the federal government, which is our tax money, it's not free money, is giving Oregon millions of dollars to buy electric school buses.
And see,
And I know here in Umatilla County, somewhere here in Umatilla County, I think they're getting 10 electric school buses. It's BS.
this is one of the reasons why I'm so in favor of shrinking the federal bureaucracy.
Yes.
Because if Oregon wants to do something suicidal like that, it should come on Oregon's dime. Nebraska, Kansas, Georgia, they should be paying for Oregon's lunacy, just like we shouldn't pay for their lunacy. Um, if you want to do that, pay for it yourself, right? And then you be more sensitive to the stupidity as well when it's bankrupting your home state.
Yeah.
The speed with which the closer you are to the carrot or the stick, the more responsive you are to doing sane things. If we're constantly at the federal level supporting California doing insane stuff, then they don't feel the stick as swiftly as they need to, and they'll do it longer. But the other 49 states aren't funding that stuff.
Yeah.
They're more likely to feel the pain from doing it and change their ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not liking what's going on, I recommend you go to the hearings, attend them virtually if you can, write letters, send in comments, but bring an army of people with you. Get people. You have to be involved in your government if you want change. They
Yeah,
have to hear from you, because if it's a growing voice in opposition to these economic killing decisions that Oregon Democrats want to do and implement in our state, if they're not hearing from us, then they're just in a cylinder listening to the same things. They have to hear from us, and that's what I'm gonna say. You have to get involved. Don't wait. Well, somebody else has to do something. No, you ought to do something.
and I'll tell you, here's another thing to remember about leftists is, like you just said, they're in their own world and they don't hear anything else. If you don't make the noise, nothing will happen. It's almost like the Roe v. Wade thing. There's gonna be a lot of years where you feel like you're just talking in the dark and nobody's hearing. But even though you're not seeing a response, it's
Yeah.
having an effect. You water the seed in the soil, you don't necessarily see the seed pop up. It might be weeks or months before it comes up. That doesn't mean it's not growing underneath. And that's the mindset that you have to have as a conservative. It doesn't feel good in these crazy left-wing states where we live. But if we don't do this, if we don't nurture the seed, it will never break through the soil. And there will be a breakthrough eventually, because there's only so much beating over the head that you can take by reality before people wake up. And we just saw that with the last election, for example, on a national scale.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was a landslide. The popular vote, the electoral college, winning all of the swing states. This is big, 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 big. And here in Oregon, even though we didn't win the national vote of our state, okay, we helped with the popular vote. We helped a lot with the popular vote as well.
And as great as that win was, yes, a significant amount of that can be attributed to a generational candidate, no question about that. But the other side of this is never forget the he had something to run on, and that's called massive crime, massive out of control inflation, massive out of control immigration, insane foreign policy resorted in wars, which we got to get to in a minute as well. So they are destroying the country. I mean, people don't even know what gender they are. Women can't go to the bathroom without a man being there, right? I mean, they set the table for the right candidate to come along with something to run on. And if we're going to avoid this pain, we had to find a candidate to house those ideas within. And Trump happened to be the right guy standing here when that time came, just like Reagan was the right guy, during the Jimmy Carter's administration insanity, or Lincoln in the Buchanan administration insanity 150 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we can't be the silent majority. You just can't sit back and go, well, I don't like this.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
can't. We have to act about it. And speaking about what I truthfully, that's not on my radar, what they're doing in Oregon. What's on my radar is what the hell Biden is doing, escalating the possibility of war, of World War III. That worries me because that has huge, huge implications.
Mm-hmm.
And when he says, you know what, we're going to spend all the money at our disposal before we leave, and now giving Ukraine, oh, sure, use these. You can go ahead and bomb Russia, Ukraine. And now 6 of those have gone.
Yeah, you can't really speak to the immorality of what they're doing. So another administration is coming into play. That administration doesn't agree with that war. They're going to make some changes to that, and yet we're going to tell the American taxpayer to their face, we're going to take the remaining $6 billion or whatever the number was, and we're going to like pour it down that rabbit hole. We're going to spend every last nickel, in spite of what other problems we might spend $6 billion on. We might spend it on a failed healthcare system. We might spend it on a failed immigration system. We might spend it, in a number of a crime system, right? But instead of all that, we're going to send it so another country can bomb another country. It
Yeah.
just doesn't make any sense. Well, it does, but not in the way that is beneficial to the people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw something that an agency, I don't remember what agency, maybe Don, they said we have 50 billion, I think it was 50 billion at our disposal, and we're going to spend on chips. We're going to spend it all.
Yeah, that was the secretary. I think it was Secretary of Defense that said that. Yeah, it was. It makes absolutely no sense unless you're the pup you're the puppet, and the puppeteers are those making money on making these weapons, continuing this war. So you have
Yeah.
two things going. You're going to continue to make these weapons so you can make money. So it's a money making operation. And number two, you're loading up the next administration with a gigantic anchor around its neck to deal with, to slow down getting into place all the things that we need gotten into place. And it sort of sets the stage for the mass media to continue to fable of Russia collusion syndrome in
Mhm.
anything that Trump would do. So, like I said before, they never stop. Yes, we won the battle, but the war is on, and these people are re-engaging already, in both the war of ideology as well as the actual war. I mean, you think about this and remind yourself, there is no way that Russia is going to lose to Ukraine. It's 140 million people versus a country with 6 million people. It's on their border. We're what, 6,000 miles away. I don't know about you, but I don't see Americans wanting to send their young men and women overseas to fight a ground war. Don't think that's going to happen. And on top of all of that, this is the only nuclear peer that we have. I mean, China's still in kindergarten when it comes to nuclear peer. This is the old Soviet Union we're talking about here. They could wipe out the entire globe, and we have people who don't care.
Well, and that's the sad part is we do have people that don't care. And when I look at what's going on, I just go, wow, they want to destroy America so badly. That's what I look at. Tearing us down economically or getting us involved with the war, um, putting us so much closer to the brink of World War III. And then you have, I think it was France and another country, I don't know, maybe Germany, I'm not sure, said, you know what, we're gonna send arms over too. It's like, oh my gosh, you guys,
Yeah,
you know?
think of the cynicism of that, and who's dying in these wars. And this is the horrible part. It's not really our troops. It's not really French troops. It's Ukrainians. It's like wiping out their whole country.
Well, it is, and so much so. Here you have Russia bringing in North Koreans, using North Koreans to fight their battle. Okay, yeah, North Koreans, you go die for Russia, but what about it is our people that are operating our equipment?
Oh, and in our country, so our companies profit at the loss of life of, and those North Korean troops got no choice. You can't feel anything but sorry for those guys, right?
Right.
And the Ukrainians is their country, and they've they, their government is horrendous, by the way, putting them in a position. What country goes to war against a behemoth, a monolith, on purpose? That's what they're doing. Why would you have a border with Russia and you're going to poke the bear? That's
Yeah.
insane.
Well, it is.
They're doing with
It
no
it
chance. Yeah, what is winning? Do you really think Russia? And hey, Putin told us 14 years ago, you're not going to NATO. It's not going to happen. And we keep pushing that. NATO's been successful, what, 70 years of success and not having another, European all-out war. And it was successful because that Russia border, they need those buffer states. Everybody understands that. For the same reason we didn't let the Russians establish a military base in Cuba, the same reasons they're not going to allow us to establish a NATO state on their border. And here we are for the last 10 years. I can't remember all the, we've been in a ton of countries though, where Putin's not pushed back. I can't remember all of them. I think like Norway, Finland, Sweden. There's been a bunch of countries on the border they've allowed in the NATO. And finally, Putin just said, enough's enough. And these people keep pushing, which tells me the real reason is they want permanent war because that's permanent profits.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It is the war machine that they want to make money. And it's true, and it's sad that it is about that. And
Eisenhower was right.
yeah,
That
yeah.
famous
You know
speech.
something? I'm
Mhm.
going to change the subject a little bit.
Mhm.
Texas has offered Trump 1,400 acres for the largest deportation site. I love it.
I saw that. That was outstanding.
They're going, come on down. We're getting all set up here. 1,402 acres of land in Starr County, in the Rio Grande Valley sector, to set up for a mass deportation operation of violent criminals who are illegally residing in the U.S. That's what you do. That's
Yeah,
winning.
yeah.
Thank you, Texas.
Yes, that was heroic, and that sort of thing is what needs to happen. Those are the positive signs, and all of this stuff is positive. By the way, the fact that the left is responding with such insanity, it's like that old military adage: if you're catching flack, you must be over the target. Well, we're
Yeah.
definitely over the target. Definitely over the target.
Yeah. So, there's Texas stepping up. They've been building the wall. They've been building their own wall. They've done so much for the American people, not just for Texas. This is for the American people of what they've been doing, trying to shut down this flow. And here they are going, yeah, we've got the state purchased the land from a ranch owner last month, and they are fully prepared to enter into an agreement with the Department of Homeland Security. And good for them. Because it's not going to happen overnight, getting these people out. And that's just a good start. So, when I look at everything getting set up, and who, as you started us out tonight, who is getting nominated. And I believe um, Trump will get his nominations one way or another. And it is in our Constitution that the Senate is to,
Advise
um,
and consent.
yes, yes,
Yeah, advise and consent. And here's another thing I just saw this too. Trump is actually considering adjourning both houses and do recess appointments for the entire cabinet. And I think, hey, you keep that in your hip pocket. If it comes down to it, then that's what we do. They want war, and we're in war. We do what's required. The days of playing nice are over. And the days of dealing with these rhinos, those are over too. And if they're not going to cooperate and play, then they need to be put on notice that you won't be in office in 2 years. The same
yeah,
strategy that ousted those Congress people who recall they voted for Trump to be impeached. I think there were like 12 or 13, and one of them was Cheney, out in
yeah.
Wyoming. And of those, I think 12 or so, like 10 or 11 of them were gone in 2 years. That's the message that needs to be sent directly to them. No playing footsie. You either behave or be gone. And that's how we have to deal with them.
And that is, frankly, that is how we have to, those are the types of actions that we have to take our country back, be it take our state back or your county if you're not happy with the county commissioners or the legislators. You have to go and get a coalition of people together and say, we're going to go and replace this person because we're not liking how they vote. And today, Pressler. Pressler was the fellow who's been helping Pennsylvania,
Mm-hmm.
Scott Pressler.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was having a senior moment there. He went to a county in Buckley County and went before the county commissioners because it's in that county that they said, you know what, we're just going to count these illegal ballots anyway. Doesn't matter if they're not signed. And he went and said, just be on notice that I'm coming after you. All calmly and politely, but just know that we're coming after your seat. And the county commissioner president or chair said, bring it on. And so you can be guaranteed that person. And he said, if you just don't step down right now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what people have to do. You have to speak up and step up, whether it's the pornography books in your schools, in your town, or it is commissioners or city councilors that are not doing the will of the people in your community, and or state. This is what it takes in order to. But in the state of Oregon, we have to register voters. I'll say it again. We have to get enough registered voters to outdo the Democrats and turning their ballots in. So,
Yeah, when you realize deep in your soul just how evil these people are. So here's like one other data point, which you've probably heard before. So Tulsi Gabbard, who the president or the soon-to-be president-elect, I should say, is going to nominate for the director of national intelligence. They put her on a watch list because it disagreed with the views she'd been presenting. Like, get that through your mind. So every time she goes to an airport, she gets pulled aside and gets the once over just because of her beliefs. I mean, that in the United States, those are the kinds of people who populate these bureaucracies. It's a great thing that life comes back to bite you. So now those same people are going to find themselves reporting to her. That is like, well, not for long, because she's going to fire them, which is exactly what needs to happen. So
yeah.
You can't talk reason. You can't be nice. That's what got us in this mess in the first place. We conservatives tend to argue from the perspective that these people want the same objectives we want. And so that's how we treat them. When the reality is they don't want the same objectives we want. This is like the Israelis going to the negotiating table with Hamas. Hamas does not want the same thing you want. They want you dead. There's nothing to negotiate here. And that's pretty much what we have when you're talking about the radical left. They want you gone. And the sooner you understand that, the better off you'll be. That doesn't mean you have to be mean and nasty about how you say it, but you do need to be firm and tell people when things are wrong, they're just wrong, and we're not going to stand for it anymore. They've taken advantage of the congeniality, if you will, of generally speaking, center of the country, center right people, which is what this country is. They've taken advantage of that natural niceness, and we've got to stop letting them do that.
Well, we do. We've negotiated and been nice away, which is how we got where we're at. And now it's about being respectful, but be firm and say no. And one of the ways that just recently happened is was it Nancy Mace, who
Yes.
is
Great segue. Yep.
Yes.
Exactly. So Nancy Mace, Congresswoman. So Congressman just got elected in Delaware. Can't think of his name, but he is a transgender. And she immediately latched on what was about to happen because, the left thinks this way. This is one of the reasons why I like her thinking. She got ahead of it and said, we're not going to have men going to women's bathrooms in Congress. and looking to pass legislation or rules, I guess, to prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
So, of course, the media is all a Twitter about this being the case. What could be more fundamentally accurate than that? And the great thing about this is Nancy Mace herself purports herself to be a feminist. And so she's behind this, which is where she should be, because it's insane that a woman should have to go share a bathroom with a, a GA man, if you will. It's just insane. And plus, if I recall, she's had a background having been assaulted, as a child. And now she's supposed to share a bathroom with this grown, man. It's like insane. And the great thing about this, and this is why symbolically this is so important, if Congress can have rules preventing women from having men in their private spaces, why would that not be good for the rest of the country? So this is a hugely important battle that needs to be fought. And I was a little concerned at first that the male Republicans weren't backing her strong enough. Again, they were coming up with this nicey nice language. There is no nicey nice here. We're not doing that. That's the kind of language that needs to be coming from men supporting her. So your thoughts, Sonny?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, and so today, Speaker Johnson came out and said, no, this person will not be using the women's restroom. It's a fully intact man that wears a dress. They can do what they want. That's their thing. But they don't get to go to the women's bathroom. And so I'm very glad about this. And I agree with what you're saying. This could be the tip of the iceberg of the way it's going to go, because as Nancy Mace said, it should be all federal buildings. Okay. And then it can expand from there, because quite frankly, I don't prescribe to men. It is not, let me tell you, the women are not scrambling to go into the men's bathroom. They're not.
Yeah.
But the men are. The left are trying to invade our bathroom, and well, you're going to have to do it. Well, I'll tell you, what is it? 1/100th of 1% of the people that we are supposed to capitulate to. No, thank you.
The utter disregard for the safety of women by the left is spectacular, that they would even make this argument. And one of the most encouraging things about this is to see more and more women standing up and saying no. The discouraging thing is not enough men are standing up for their women. That kind of blows my mind that there was any hesitation on the part of these men in Congress to do that. Having said that, I'm really encouraged to see women themselves saying no, just like the women volleyball players out, and I think it's the West Coast Conference or one of the conferences out west, the volleyball players saying, we're not going to play. You can have all the scheduled games you want, and they can play by themselves. We're not playing. And I think that's just awesome. And the more that happens, it will collapse of its own accord. Because I tell you, nothing's more irrational than that. And this is related to, and there's a video that I was talking to Sunny earlier about. Is it the gal in Georgia who got raped and killed by the illegal alien? I can't remember her name. Was it
Laken Riley?
Laken Riley.
Yeah.
So I saw a video of just a brief video of the mom in a court having listened to. There was an 18-minute video. So apparently somehow this guy who killed her daughter was on video doing it. So she fought for her life for 18 minutes. I mean, let that sink into you for a second. It's one thing to talk about what these evil people have done in terms of killing people, this many millions, that many millions, this many thousands. Those numbers don't really mean that much to you. Personalize it. Put yourself in her shoes, listening to her daughter's last moments of life being taken by somebody who had no business in the country. Her own government betrayed her and the rest of us and let this guy in the country. That's what the left is doing to women, because they're going to hurt them. Women are going to get hurt first, along with minorities in these areas where they let these people loose. Those are the most vulnerable. Those are the ones that are going to be harmed first. And if you don't stand up and start shouting from the rooftops, they're going to keep doing it, because the left doesn't care about you.
No, they don't. And if people think, well, gosh, you're supposed to. you're just not paying attention enough. You're just not paying attention enough.
Well,
And so I'm glad that case is over, and I'm sorry that Georgia apparently doesn't have the death penalty because I think that's what he should have got. But he's got a death penalty, death sentence, or no, life in prison without parole is what he got, and more than one. And yeah, it's a shame. It's
of
a
course,
dang shame.
there may not be, there may not be a, what do you call it? The state may not have a death penalty, but the guys in prison might have some other penalties for him.
Right, right. Hey,
That-
something, just I'm going to change the subject again. Lori Chavez DeRemer might be in the running for Trump's labor secretary,
Ooh, I love it.
right? So it's some apparently four people are saying that she is. She lost her reelection, and so she might be in the running for Trump's labor secretary spot. She was very much endorsed by unions, some unions, and whatnot. And hey, that would be a feather in Oregon's cap if she was.
Mhm,
That's going, okay, this is the state that they don't pay attention to because it doesn't matter.
mhm.
But, and then another thing I wanted to, good news. Texas is takes a step closer to incorporating Bible material in elementary school lessons.
Ooh, I love it. I love it.
Isn't that good?
That
I
is
I
fantastic.
like that.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if we don't get control over who raises our kids or who's
Yeah.
impacting their minds, then all of the stuff is for naught, right? So that those kinds of wins are awesome. Anything that impacts the educational system in a positive way is a huge win for us. So that's good news indeed.
Yes, it is. And Oklahoma purchases more than 500 Bibles for the classrooms. So there's a shift to the right, a shift to the right, and I think it's good. There's those people that, oh, church and state, it's not supposed to be in there, and
Mhm.
I'm all for having a Bible in a school and in classrooms. So I like it. I thought that was some a couple of good news stories, and Dawn sent me a this morning sent actually to Kevin and I a meme. I'm going to put a link to Rumble, and it is the top 10 memes.
I think
And
you'll really enjoy those.
yes, I think so too. So I'm going to put this in the link. Check it out. It was worth watching very, very much. We got to have fun. It's not all doom and gloom. There's a lot of we're winning bigly, and the best is yet to come. Trump
Oh,
always said that the best is yet to come,
oh,
and
I'm convinced it's all positive now. I mean, we got to fight those wars, and we talked about those wars we have to fight. But yes, what a huge win, right?
yeah.
So
So
we're
everybody,
yeah, we're coming up on that time. By the way, Sonny, you're not going to get the
yes,
dinner unless,
yeah. So
and I'm not going to get the Dairy Queen.
final words, Don.
Wow. My final words are keep winning bigly, stay positive, stay engaged. Remember, the war isn't over. Yes, we should smile and we should laugh. I feel like there's been a blanket lifted over us, right? It really does feel great. Having said that, we've got to keep the eye on the prize. Anybody you see that you want to engage with, that needs to be engage with them. Don't back down. Don't be mean, but engage. Companies that don't behave, don't buy their stuff. There's all kinds of little things you can do. If you have time to get involved in a school board, go get involved, right? But we need to like engage, particularly, I'm going to guess most of our audience is probably over age 40 or 50, especially if you're retired. Don't retire 100% from life. Retire and help build a country that your children and grandchildren can continue to live in. Sonny?
I agree with that. I'll tell you. I'm reading. Pick whatever is your bailiwick. Pick something that interests you because there's so many topics So many areas to be involved, but pick what interests you and dive in and help be the change that you want to see.
I love it. What a great note to end on. Let freedom ring. You all have a great week, and we'll see you next wonderful Wednesday.